Good afternoon, students of Speaking Out, exposing corruption, incompetence. Welcome to the Friday afternoon's edition of Speaking Out. Welcome to the Friday afternoon's edition. Hope you had a wonderful, we were last year on Wednesday. So Wednesday night, Thursday night, and this morning, the last day, we say Fridays are special days because of the end of the work week. And especially just less than 2 weeks from Christmas, people got a lot of stuff to do. So welcome to this Friday, the 12th day of December in the year of our Lord, 2025. Another great day that the Lord has made. Let's rejoice and be glad in it. Let's give praise and thanks for being in the land of the living. It is a privilege to be in the land of the living, and we should never, ever take that for granted. So many have not made it. So yes, share the live. Let them know that we're on. And as you come in, give us a thumbs up, show your appreciation. And we are going to be with you. My colleague CC is in the studio at this stage. There was no blackout, at least at this time, no blackout. That popular thing in Guyana, no blackout. So he's there, ready to give you credible, valuable information. So share. And we are going to be with you. As I've said, the 12th day. Imagine Christmas is less than 2 weeks away. Less than 2 weeks. Next weekend, right? So you have this weekend and next weekend. The last 2 weekends before Christmas, right? So make sure you do all your chores. Get your stuff in. You got to do it as early as possible. Because I know in GT next year, big rain come down and the whole place flood. You can't get to do or can't get to move around and so on. So, get to it as early as possible. So share the live, and what we're going to do, as is customary, as I've said, it is great to be in the land of the living, and so many persons have not made it. We have a few announcements to make a little later. So what we're going to do is that I am going to make the announcements. First of all, let me do the roll call and acknowledge those who are here very early. It's good to acknowledge your early students, They take time to make sure they're here, and we should acknowledge them. 2 o'clock this afternoon, the program or the gates were open at 2, and then immediately we had many students lined up to enter the schoolyard to play and to kill some time before the doors are open. And the first man in is from the UK. Wayne came in at 2. He was followed by Ulrich. Where's them? Then it was Peter. After Peter, it was Joan from New Amsterdam. Then it was Sean, upstate New York. Then we had Anthony Petersall on the east bank of Demerara. Kerry is there all over the place. I ain't sure we there now. Take you there in Guyana. Then we have Rawl, is here very early. Then Clarence, there Aubrey from Canada, 9053, I think was his number. Then it was Marcia. Simo is here, 0539 Simpson is here with us, former cricketer, Guyana cricketer. Then it was Ricky. Then Ricky came in at 201. Then it was Vibert, and this is Vibert on the East Bank. Then we have Clive from the UK, Patrick from the UK, Vashti, Brian, Emerson, Diane, Danny is here. Danny's from Florida. Then it was Doreen from Canada, my squad mate. Charlene is here with us very early, 201. Puran from Essequibo Coast. Then it was Kevin came in just at the same time. So yes, those are the students who came early. Let me see those who came in when we opened the door. Those who came in very early there, let me see. Edward Charles. I don't know how he does it, but he's always there when the school door open. He's here there to get in early. Then we have Junior is here. Tessa came early. Simone. Then it was Commissioner Cole is here very early. Then who else? Mark is here. And the list goes on and on and on. Sister Trifosa came early as well. So the list goes on. So let me give you the announcements. As we say, the sad ones first, and then we're going to move into the many subjects that we have to discuss. some very interesting follow-up, and so we have to do. Now, the today is what, 637 days since the death of Police Sergeant Alex Vance, 637 days. And as we have said, I'm going to continue to repeat it. It might sound monotonous, but it is important to keep these things on the front burner. 637 days since this police sergeant was shot and killed, and they're silent, and they talk about transparency. That's the thing. Then I told you about the death of Special Sergeant Glendon Rose, right? He died on December the 2nd, and I'm reminding you that the funeral is tomorrow, Saturday, December the 13th, viewing at All Saints Anglican Church, New Amsterdam, from 12 p.m., followed by a service and burial at the Stanleytown Cemetery. There's a wake tonight at the Ministry of Sports Training Center, Vrymans Irving. That is the late retired Sergeant 8916 Glendon Rose. Then we told you too about the death of Godfrey Webster. Well, Godfrey was, I think he might have been cremated today. I know today, I'm not sure he was buried or cremated, but they said Memorial Gardens, which suggests that it might have been a cremation. And then I learned last evening of the death of retired Chief Inspector Gregory Forbes Trotman. He died on the 9th. Trotty was, as he was known, Chartman, I remember Trotty well. I was his instructor. Trotty was at the Presidential Guard for a number of years. Can't remember his regulation number, but he was very short in stature. Retired some years ago as a Chief Inspector of the Presidential Guard. He died on the 9th on the East Coast. Then this morning I got some shocking news of the death of the wife of a loyal student. I'm referring to Vibert Smith. His wife, Sylvia Smith, died this morning. Suddenly, according to Smithy, she got up. She was there watching TV about 4 something this morning, went to brush her teeth and just collapsed and died. Collapsed and died shortly after. Right? Sylvia Smith, the wife of retired Detective Superintendent Vibert. Vibert is on this program not almost every day. I'm not sure if he's on today because of the circumstances. Very, very loyal student. Excellent detective he was. So his wife died this morning. And then this morning, we got the shocking news of the death of an icon. Talking about Ronald Owen Robinson, better known as Ron Robinson, died this morning at the age of 79. And you know, he was an outstanding broadcaster. I remember as a little boy, and even much older, Ron on the radio, you listen to these people to learn how they, with pronunciation and the diction and how they read. You couldn't help learning when you listen to Ron. And then Ron was a man in the theater acting. Who can forget when Ron, the Link Show, and Ron imitating Laurie Lewis, his friend. Yeah, we call him, Ron is Trinky Lowe, after the Shakespeare play, the Tempest, I think it was. So Ron was an icon, outstanding broadcaster, outstanding actor, man from the Theatre Guild, man from the Cultural Center. When you have these shows, Ron Robinson was always there. Outstanding. So Ron passed away this morning. I want to take this opportunity to express condolences to all the relatives and friends of all those persons who have passed. Special condolence to Smithy on the passing of his wife, and of course to the broadcasting and acting community for the passing of Ron, because these icons, not so long ago it was my countryman who died. Then you had people like Alan Fenty. These people are going. All of us have to go one day. But real sad when you get this type of news. Let me bring in CC, and then I'm going to give you the body and so on. But I really wanted to bring in CC at this point to make his comment, to make his introductory comment, and then we are going to I'm going to move on with some more announcements. CC, the death of these people, I'm sure you want to commiserate with them,
Yeah,
with the
fourth,
relatives. Go ahead.
I'm happy to be in the land of the living to do God's work. So, as you mentioned, some people didn't make it. I learned with much grief about the death of Sylvia Smith, wife of retired Detective Superintendent Smith. News of this irreparable loss hit me like a bolt from the blue, and I believe all those who knew Sylvie are equally perturbed. I met Sylvie in 1973 when I went to Maiconi as a recruit. And I always remember Maiconi, I look at her talk about Maiconi. And she was a wonderful woman, a dedicated wife, a loving wife, and everything that Smithy needed. I knew that he's grieving, but Smithy, I pray that God will give you the strength, the courage to move on in life. Shakespeare said that death is a necessary end. It will come when it will. And although it will come when it will, we don't come to terms with it. Also, Ron Robinson, brilliant guy in terms of, announcing and teeth, all sort of thing there. I use him a couple of times to do some public speaking with members of the Guyana police force, and he was wonderful. I remember I offered to pay him a little stipend, and he refused. No, 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 I do a public service. And so, to the relatives, members of the bereaved families, my deepest sympathy, and may their soul rest in peace.
Yes, yes, we have to say, we have to give them our deepest sympathy. But as you said, it's a necessary end. We all have to go that way one day. Even though some of them we have in the system there, they believe that they will never die. So the thiefing and the thiefing and the thiefing. And let me remind them they can't carry nothing when they're going. They can't take anything with them when they put them there, whether they're in a box or wherever. They can't take anything. But they operate like if they're going to live forever. So, but we all have to go. Let me move to the more pleasant announcements. Birthday greetings today. Superintendent Alistair Roberts. I'm not sure he used to be at Linden. I'm not sure he is now. Alistair is observing a natal day today. Inspector Michael Sutton, right? I think in addition to celebrating his birth anniversary today, I noted on social media that he graduated recently with a degree in law. Congratulations to him. Also, my squad mate, former member George Semple, 9547. We used to call him Mice. I gave him that name when we were in training school. He's 47. I am 49. So we lived for 6 months together in that back room. So George is celebrating his natal day today. And then today, too, is the 77th birth anniversary of a loyal, dedicated student. I'm referring to Desiree Liverpool. I'm sure she's on. Desiree Liverpool, today is her 77th. If she's not on, I'm sure is going to be looking later, right? So today is our birth anniversary. And I also want to extend happy 45th birth anniversary to Gary Pantless, his father, who is a loyal student in Canada, Aubrey, is the student. I don't know if Gary is a student, but today is Aubrey's birth anniversary. And in terms of advanced birthday greetings, I want to send out advanced birthday greetings to a former member, one of the TSU men, talking about, everybody knows his tracksuit, but his correct name is Oswald King. I think his regulation number was 8791. 8791 Oswald King tracksuit is observing a birth anniversary tomorrow. So congratulations to all those who are observing today, who observed recently, and who are observing in the near future. But before bringing CC, somebody to remind us that we had a cricket match. I mean, the result wasn't surprising. The result was not surprising. West Indies lost in what 3 days, I think it was, right? As I indicated, and I don't allow emotions to cloud my judgment in this matter. You are playing in a test match, and you are bowled out on the first day of the test match. You have a lot of catching up to do. That has been proven statistically. You have a lot of catching up to do, and unfortunately, they weren't able to catch up. So they lost the game, and by 9 wickets, I think it was. So, but having said that, for us cricket fans, we would have looked at India and South Africa yesterday in the second T20. What a game. South Africa, 212, I think they made in the 20 overs. And, I mean, India wasn't really in the hunt because they lost a few early wickets and they were always under pressure. And South Africa was able to level the series. I just want to remind you, cricket fans, that those two teams were the two finalists in the last T20 World Cup, right? So when they come together, and that was a big dark battle as well. So when they come, one can expect an exciting game. Exciting. Again, to remind you, cricket fans, that the T20 World Cup is in February, just about 2 months away, right? 2 months away, we have the T20 World Cup. But let me bring in CC at this stage, and then we're going to move on with some more stuff. CC, I'm sure you want to extend congratulations to all those Bordy people and say
Yeah,
something about the cricket. Go ahead.
yeah. Congratulations to all those persons who celebrated their birthdays, especially Desiree. I think she's back in Georgia. She didn't take the midnight train. I think she took the bus, and I want to believe that she's going to have a wonderful time this evening. I understand she's an excellent caterer, so they're sure the meals would be lavish, and in various styles. So Desiree, you 77, you turn it backward or forward, it's still 77, but there are many more to come, many more, and you have many more candles to blow. So enjoy the day, and then I want to say welcome back to Grace, one of our loyal students. I think she came back a couple of days ago. She ran from the cold, so she in Guyana, and she's going to enjoy the Christmas and the holiday. The cricket I watched part of it, Paul. And after the fifth wicket fell, I just go to sleep. Myself and my wifey were watching it, and I said 5 wickets. I said this match finished tonight. If you want, you could watch Boy again and sleep. And as a diehard West Indian, she watched it to the end, and she could come and wake me up and say, they lose. I said the same thing. I said, man. And as you rightly mentioned, Paul, you can out for a little bit on a first day and expect to win a match or draw a match. No, 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 no. No, 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 no. Unless you Australia or something. Out for 200 and some 200 and a little bit, and you want to win much. You can't win much. But then we saying I've been talking today that Western is very very consistent in their inconsistency.
Yeah, very consistent in their inconsistency. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, the thing about it, though, as we say, is the inconsistency. The last match, they build up a lot of hopes and so on. Draw a test match that everyone expected them to lose. They came back and they drew that game, and now they capitulated. So that is how it goes. Now, let me remind the former members, ex-policemen, who are members of the Guyana Ex-Police Association, call it now the former members of the force, that they have the luncheon on Sunday. That's Sunday coming December the 14th from 1 p.m. at the association headquarters on Cowan Street. So for those of you who are around in GT, they have a luncheon. Go get a luncheon. And it's not only about the luncheon, it's being able to meet with your former colleagues and to sit down and ganga. That is what these things are all about. So, yeah, Sunday at the Ex-Police Association building there on Cowan Street, you have the Christmas luncheon. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about is on Wednesday we normally pay Inida Chimakuwe because as I indicated on the last occasion there, the vice president was mission in action, causing people to speculate about his health, whether he was well or all of that, because the last time he had a press conference was on the 6th of November. And then the man being absent there all the time. Some people said the man suffering from Lamborghiniitis, that disease, Lamborghiniitis. Well, the man made the next appearance yesterday. I saw that he appeared yesterday at some activity on the East Coast. I think it's the Region 4. That's some meeting there. And the man appeared. Listen to what he had to say. Listen, it's short. I know I can't listen to him for long too, but it's not something like less than a minute. So listen to what he had to say.
Lots of work. We've gone back. People don't see me at press conferences anymore. And the elections are over. We have to now deliver on our promises. So they cuss me all the time. I got a lot of cussing from our own people. Where are you all today? Where are you at 2 o'clock? But I'm back in making sure that whatever we promise, we can actually deliver. That's why we won with a landslide, because in 2020, we were careful about the promises we made. And we worked 5 years in spite of COVID to deliver on those promises. And we'll do so again. We'll do so again.
Now, that you heard the president say, the vice president, maybe there's a Freudian slip. The vice president said they can deliver on the promises. Well, the promise that people are looking out for more than anything else at this time is the promised cash grant. Remember that one, vice president? Y'all promised people cash grant. And less than 2 weeks before Christmas, it looked like y'all reneging on that promise. But that is the one people want you to deliver. Vice President said, well, it looked like the press conferences, the so-called press conferences he had, is because of the elections were around the corner. So he went there to spew his propaganda and to insult people and all them type of thing. So what they want now, he said they're going to deliver on the promises. That more than any other promise is what people are looking forward to. People are looking forward to this promise to the cash grant, right? But what they come and the president said that for the disability, people with disability, and I understand people are saying now it has to be permanent disability. People with permanent disability will get a 50,000 one off, right? One off before, I think it's before the end of the year, one off. But people want the money, Mr. Vice President. So if you're saying that you are going to deliver on the promises, deliver on that one. But let me say this, that even if at this late stage they decide to give a cash grant, everybody in Ghana can't get it in time for Christmas. Logistically, it is not feasible, it's not possible. So you got to hold wood, right? And I tell you, in case you forget, you get your special Christmas tree. They're still on sale. Your special Christmas tree, the no cash grant Christmas tree, still on sale. So you can go and you can get. Don't let them these Grinches deprive you of a nice Christmas. You might be able to get a big, elaborate Christmas tree, but you get this one, man. Make sure you go and you get the little Christmas. Especially if you have children, they look forward to these things. They look forward to this thing. So yeah. So you heard what the vice president said there for yourself, right? Let me bring in CC for CC to comment on that one. CC, you heard the vice president. He said they're going to deliver on the promises as they did when they won in 2020. So many promises unkept.
I listen to him and I watch him too, because I believe in kinesis, I look at the body language there, but I will talk about that some other time. And then they're using fancy words. Permanent disability. What is permanent disability? And don't be surprised if they say they have until 2026 to give the cash grants. And don't be surprised too if they say that the things that they're going to give it incrementally. So they're playing with a whole lot of words, you know. But watching the, the, the second vice president, I must give him his official um, qualification. The second vice president, I see slimming down, and I won't be surprised if before long he disappear.
He's slimming down. Oh, let me slimming down. You know, look at all a lot of people in government associated with government and support. They're slimming down, man. They're exercising a lot. They're exercising and dieting a lot, so they are slimming down. They are slimming down. And next thing, if you're talking about keeping promises and so on, what about the one-off monthly salary that the police initially used to get on joint services? What happened to that? They're looking forward to it too. Kayal went there, the president went there in July and tell them all sort of thing, forget them to vote for the vote for the president, promotion and all, which we can talk about a little later. But what happened to that? What happened to the people one off? First of all, when it started under Jack Dio, I think it was, used to be police. Then the other services kick up, and then the army came into it. When if my memory serves me correct, when the coalition came, coalition said, look, let's give it to let's give a bonus to all public servants. And that is what they did. But when these people come back, you know, they come they're fooling you. Well, you know, they say a promise is a comfort to fools, enough for you. The whole year and ball, nothing in there, nothing in coming, right? And then the next thing, you know, as I've said, CC is here, no interruption, I think. But, you know, on Monday, he came in late because there was blackout, that thing that happens a lot. They promise you're going to get uninterrupted power supply. Well, you better get a generator, forget the uninterrupted power supply. So for Christmas. And then they came out with a statement as to the reason for the blackout. You know, they say it's a yawari. Some people are not going to be familiar. It's a possum. I think there's a correct name for the yawari. We call it in the country yawari. Some people wrong the tongue and say yawari, like my headmaster, my teacher, Mr. McDonald. McDonald came to school the Monday morning and he asked his students what they had, they had special lunch they had over the weekend. And somebody said, Mr. McDonald, me had yawari. He said, no, don't be so crude. It's yawari. Yawari. And they put up picture to look, picture. This is the man who caused the blackout. Well roasted yawari, right? Well, some time ago, it was birds and the ship, I think, birds that caused the blackout. Now they're blaming them on the yawari. Well, yawari can't talk for himself. So yawari don't cause the blackout. So they're going to come up with something. Every time there is a prolonged power outage, they can come with some excuse, right, as to what is the cause of this thing. So yawari, what, you know, and then I go up in the country, you know, yawari is a sweet thing, you know. You drink a little liquor there and you think yawari, Happy Young is the first man get me to eat yawari at the TSU, yawari. And then, let me tell you a story before bringing CC. One big investigation in relation to yawari. And what happened? I was a young SO then. I think I might have been a sergeant. And the ranks working at the Dr. Reed Guard in Bel Air, you know, when I was posting them, detailing them, some of the conversation they talk about yawari, and they said there's got to be yawari one day every night. So I tell them, hey, when you see, y'all catch one and call me when it's done. Very night, shortly after, a couple hours after they call me. Sarge, we get a yawari. So I fly down by the place, collect the yawari, brought it to the TSU. Now, one of the things you got to do when you get it, you got to roast the air off. You light the fire and roast off the air and so on. So now I brought the yawari, look around, breeze is blowing strong at the TSU. So the only place I could have lit this fire without it being blown out was downstairs by the TSU arms store. So I gather some paper, and get some wood, and I roast this Larry nice and so on. Right? Thing. So I say it's a rat, it's a rodent. Yeah. So lava, so too is lava, you know, we just eat lava. So the next thing, you know, I cut up me thing and carry me yawari, planning to make this curry. Next morning when I come to work and so on, I hear big investigation it is. So They said somebody attempted to burn down the building. So I said, somebody attempted to burn down the building? I got upstairs, got to say yes by the arms room. When I got upstairs, the arms room, they say, you see the debris from the fire that I had set. Right? The things I had to go quietly to Uncle Clark. Tell you, Skipper, it's me like to find up a Rosa Yauri, man, nobody. So they had to call off the investigation because they had big investigation going on. Somebody attempted to burn down the building. I tell you, he said, no, it's by the concrete I put this thing and I Rosa's Yauri and so on. But it's a sweet meat. I don't know how many of you had it, but it's a sweet meat. Yeah, Yauri. I think they got some name to the call it in Trinidad, but we call it in Guyana Yauri. Yauri. See, as a bushman, I show you once you put the lash in the Yauri already, man.
Not only as a bushman, as a countryman, I had it roast, I had it bake, I had yarri and pepper pot, very, 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 very sweet meat there. And the Ghana police was lucky, Paul, that when you were roasting that yarri there, you then had a piece of sponge, a piece of wire, and a lighter, or other things might have happened. Anyway, back to the yarri. A good damn sweet meat, and I eat it anytime.
Yeah, somebody say Akuri is something different, man. You see, I grew up in the country like PSCC. Akuri is something different. Akuri and Yauri are not the same, right? But it's a sweet meat, man. Sweet. But what you got to do, you got to know how to clean it first. Because in cleaning it, once you roast it, there's a pouch between the hind legs. You got to make sure you cut out carefully. A possum is the right name here. You have to take out that pouch carefully, or else the old meat can spoil. The old meat gun spy. Manikou. Yeah, Manikou. You're right. Right. That's the name that is called Manikou. Right. Sweet meat, man. I have had it on many occasions. Now, let me tell you all this. We update on this matter that you reported on. Serious matter now. We reported on, I think on the last 2 episodes, about this young lady from Letem who was charged with cybercrime. She pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 1 year in prison and fined $1 million Ghanaian. Well, I saw in the news today that the matter has been appealed. Oh, Lord. I felt so good. Darren Wade, kudos to you. Attorney Darren Wade, I understand, took up the case and he has appealed the matter. I hope that now that he appealed, well, I suspect the fact that she pleaded guilty, one of the grounds of appeal has to be the severity of sentence. Because as we said before, she pleaded guilty. First of all, why that was, because maybe she was unrepresented. So she went there and she pleaded guilty. Right? And like the magistrate did not take that into consideration. The magistrate sentenced her to 1 year in prison and a $1 million fine. So I'm saying here now that the matter has been appealed, I hope that the young woman, and look, let me tell you something, we're not condoning any crime, We don't know the nature of the abuse and all of that. We don't know what she said, but I am saying, for persons to be charged with a cybercrime and they pleaded guilty, 1 year imprisonment and $1 million fine, got to be too severe, man. Got to be. A young mother at that. Got to be too severe. So I hope that the next stage of this operation or this whole process is that she is granted liberty. She's granted bail pending the appeal. I hope that. So she can be out during Christmas with our children and so on. Right? The same magistrate, remember, remanded 2 men for attempted simple larceny. Attempted simple larceny, the men were charged for. Let them again. Attempted simple larceny, and the 2 men were remanded to prison. You have this woman who pleaded guilty to a cybercrime charge, 1 year jail, and $1 million fine. Something is wrong. Something is wrong. Any reasonable person will say that. And again, I say, we're not sure about the circumstances, but whatever the circumstances were, cybercrime is nothing to do with violence or that. It's a cybercrime. She must say something bad about some other woman over the computer or over the phone or whatever. She gets charged with cybercrime. She admitted, guilty. And you got sentenced to 1 year plus $1 million fine, plus $1 million fine, something is definitely wrong, right? Something with definitely wrong with that. And yeah, somebody tell me Larimer. We had a case with Kevin Larimer from Lena, remember? Charged, found guilty for fraud in his absence, right? They had the warrant for him to go to prison. No attempt was made initially by the police to take him to prison, none. And in case you all don't know who Kevin Larimer was or is a strong supporter of the government, strong supporter. Then what happened? When eventually he was arrested and he was being taken to the Lusignan prison as ordered by the warrant, right? He was told, the people, police tell he turned back, abort the mission. They went back, then he complained that he had problems. They took him to the hospital and so on. Then eventually, I understand, he was arrested and taken to the Lusignan prison. He was arrested and taken to the Lusignan eventually, and he was, not pardoned, I don't know if the pardon is the correct word, but I understand that he was released. He was released for set time served or something, but he was released. So people have been asking about it. That is the latest information I got. Larimer was released. So you see the system, this animal farm we're talking about, animal farm. So yes, the young lady the matter has been appealed. And once the matter is appealed, I would expect an application will be made for it to be granted bail pending the appeal. Because even if at the appeal, I think that will go to the full court. Even if the appeal and they still decide that she is guilty, I'm sure they're going to determine that the sentence was too severe, man. I am sure about that. Let me bring in CC to make his comment on that. CC, what are your views on this whole matter, man?
I'm happy that Darren has appealed the matter. And the principle I understand is that no punishment must be put in place whilst an appeal is pending. There's no understanding. No punishment must be put in place whilst an appeal is pending. So I think bail should be automatic. And then again, sometimes people plead guilty. And when you look at it, she pleaded guilty. I don't know whether or not she understands the nature of the charge. A lot of people plead guilty and get off on appeal because they say they did not understand the nature of the charge when they pleaded guilty. So a whole lot of things there should come about. Let's look what's going to happen. I think I'm happy that Darren has taken up the mantle and say, I'm going to appeal it. But I'm repeating the point that what I understand is that no punishment should be put in place once a matter is under appeal, and that some persons pleaded guilty to charges, but they didn't understand the nature of the charge, and they can seek redress or they will get redress elsewhere.
Yeah. Once you appeal, the sentence has to be suspended until the appeal is determined. So let's see what happens there. Now, we reported to you too, was a big thing Monday. Remember Monday, the break-in of the Ministry of Home Affairs? We went into that into detail on Wednesday. The break-in Monday, we talked about it Monday. Then the response by the minister, which we felt was wholly inappropriate. The minister focused on people who criticized, well, not only criticized, who talked about the lack of security at the Ministry of Home Affairs, which allowed for this man to go in there, spend how much time, ransack the place, load up computer, load up other electronic devices, and left, right? Left. Slackness. Well, he appeared in court, I think it was yesterday, charged with breaking and entering larceny. As we explained to you too, that is not a burglary. Can't commit burglary in a building such as that. Burglary that they have been a dwelling house. So he was charged with breaking and entering larceny and pleaded guilty and was remanded. I found that very strange. So I said, well, maybe he was remanded because the magistrate wants to get a probation report, because the normal thing is that if a person charged with any offense and they plead guilty, is for sentence to be handed down. And if you are going to remand him, I suspect that the magistrate might have remanded him for some maybe probation report or some psychiatric assessment, something like that. But the man was charged. I remember he left the building. So despite what the minister saying, and trying to blame opposition for what they said, which was justified, because it's a slack security. Allow the person to get into the building in the first instance, right? And then, as we said, they are claiming that they saw this man ransacking at some stage, perhaps when they wake up. They saw this on the CCTV camera, this intruder in the building. And there was no quick response. So all that should be looked into. Why wasn't there a quick response? You have the people there. Let me assume, I know enough of these places, they have women on duty, and maybe they're afraid to approach this person and all that. Let me give them that. But what happened to the phone? Could they not have called the 911 or called the police and caused a patrol to respond to apprehend this person there? Then the minister thinking how the man was investigation and all sort of nonsense, right? He should have never gotten into the building in the first place. And having gotten into the building, if he is observed, he should have never been allowed to leave the building or the compound. Straightforward. So he is remanded. And I said when the matter occurred, I am surprised that they didn't seek to link Asruddin Mohammed and the Win Party to that. To say, well, it's them pay somebody for going there for doing some damage or so on. I am surprised because, like everything now, they're trying to link the Win Party and Asruddin Mohammed to. Right? So again, I say I found that strange that this man, well, first of all, as we said, the minister make big nice when all the criticisms were justified. Slack security. And I hope that they have taken action against those persons. It's neglected duty, contains to section 4E2 of the Police Discipline Act, chapter 1701. I know them sections good, I know the sections good. Failed to perform your duty with diligence because they ought to have failed to perform the duty with diligence, allow the man to get in and to get out. But again, is there a guard order? That is maybe something of the past. Is there a guard order? All of these locations should have guard orders, a guard order. So the ranks they know exactly what to do when certain things occur. But them things gone through the window now, So just post people, they just look at bodies, they put two persons there, and that's it. Bodies are there, and they can't act, they can't react. They can't act properly to prevent something, and when something happens, they can't react in a very professional manner. That is the story there. Let me hear what CC has to say on this one. CC?
Well, I said before, and I'm going to repeat it. There is it, you observe a man, an intruder, ransacking the person, the second floor, and there's no rapid response. You don't even do like what your boy say, anything happen on the highway, dial 911, and they're going to get immediate action. And they spend nearly an hour and a half there. And I don't know how the magistrate or why the magistrate remanded him for sentencing. Maybe he or she has good reason. But the whole thing is total slackness. Total slackness. A friend who think in the extreme, you were gaffing this morning about the same thing, and he said, that guy is lucky that he didn't leave the building horizontally.
Well, exactly, because I can well imagine if you had people who were alert and guard and they were armed, they saw the intruder, might have challenged him, and if he resisted or if they felt that he was presenting a danger to them, he could have been killed. He could have been killed, right? So, I hope they look to make sure that you see all the faults and try to remedy them, at least with some order or so on, and to make sure that disciplinary action is taken against those who were on duty there at the time. It's slackness, and that is what the minister should have been focusing on. The fact that this man was allowed to get into the building to wrap. According to the daytime frame, he spent almost 2 hours in there. Almost 2 hours. He could have done anything. Could have placed some device to burn that place down. You could have put some timing device there to cause harm to the minister. That is what the minister should look at, right? As against focusing on the fact that members of the opposition were talking about the fact that the Ministry of National Security had somebody broke into that building. She's focusing on the wrong thing. But you know, that's how these politicians operate, you know. That's how they operate, and that is why these things are not fixed, right? Wrong focus. Now let me move on. As I said on Wednesday, we spoke about this announcement by the president about this driver's license scam, right? The government to publish names of drivers who bypass licensing system. 6 weeks amnesty issue, that is the president said. And again, we have to comment on where he chose to make that announcement. At the police breakfast. And as we said, that breakfast is the Christmas breakfast. A light-hearted thing. There's not a place to go and make any serious announcement. So maybe he's not serious. That is why he made it there. And one recall, I think the week before, he went to a function held by the British High Commissioner to talk about fines not being paid, tickets not being paid for speeding and all this type of thing. Wrong time, man, wrong time. You gotta understand time and place for everything, right? If you're religious, Ecclesiastic 3, there's a time and place for everything under the sun. And certainly a Christmas breakfast where people go there to have a breakfast and to relax and so on is not the place to talk about these serious, if you're serious at all. And as I indicated on Wednesday, you're going to make such an announcement at the police breakfast. I can well imagine many of the officers who were there would have been very, very uncomfortable because many of them are facilitating this corruption. So when you talk about corruption involving driver's license and so on, enough of them would have been ginching. They can't sit down flat. They're changing from fact to fact. They're uncomfortable. And let me say this. I have a lot to say more on it, but let me say this. If this government is serious about corruption, clamping down on corruption, according to the president, you have the information about all those who acquired the license illegally. Well, you're talking about bypassing system, not bypassing system. They acquired the driver's license illegally. And in a country at this time where we have this carnage on the road, so many people are dying on the road, and the suspicion is many of those drivers either bought their license or did not license that. One would have thought that if you're serious, right away, you get the names, launch an investigation. Those people should have been arrested and interrogated to get to the bottom of what is going on. Names would have been called, and you get a better understanding as to what is going on in the system, right? But to say you're giving people 6 weeks amnesty to turn the license in, who you believe turning any license? Who you believe turning any license? People are going to call you bluff. People are going to call you bluff. In the meanwhile, those people who acquired the license unlawfully, illegally, are still on the road, presenting danger to themselves and others. While you, the president, deciding you'll give them a 6 week amnesty. You give them 6 week amnesty. Again, you say you know who these people are. You talk about triangulation and all of that. And you know who the people are that acquired the license illegally. And even though they're using euphemism by bypassing the licensing system, they acquired it illegally. And one would have thought that if you're serious, an investigation would have commenced, a criminal investigation, not only to determine, well, you know the people, to determine who facilitated this process. Who facilitated the process? Because there are many, many facilitators. As I said on Wednesday, my information is that you carry $100,000 to certain facilitators, right? Some of them are, they say, a little more considerate. You can carry 80,000 and you give them. Along with the money, you give them 3 passport size photographs and the copy of your identification card. You don't buy no package. You got to sit no a theoretical exam. You got to take no practical examination, and you're going to get your certificate of competence, which you then take to the Guyana Revenue Authority, and you get your driver's license. That is what is being said, and you don't want to investigate that. You tell me what, turn yourself in. You're given 6 weeks grace period or 6 weeks amnesty to turn themselves in. You ever hear such nonsenseness? I gotta use Nyland well thing for those new students who might say, well, that is not the word nonsenseness, but the older one knows what I'm talking about, right? We had a old boy to call said nonsenseness. That is craziness. People are dying on the road, and we suspect that the main cause is the fact that you have a lot of people there, unqualified drivers. It has been pronounced on by many, the corruption in the system. I am surprised that they now admit that there's corruption in the system, because all the time they were denying, but I guess the evidence is so overwhelming now that they got to come out and they got to admit that. But let me say this, because I saw a letter recently, I think it was yesterday, some man complaining that this system is going to cause hardship. Imagine that. Imagine people can come and write in the newspaper to claim that if you now taking away the license of persons who, according to the president, bypass the system, it can cause hardship to some people because some of them can't read and write. But how they get the license in the first place? How did they acquire? And they make special reference in the letter to people from Blackbush and the quarantine. I don't know, that I believe there's an insult to people from Blackbush, because basically what the author or the writer is saying, that you get people from Blackbush who can't read and write. I guess you have such people all over. But let me tell you this before I begin, CC. That is one of the fights that I had. I told you all I designed, along with people like Simeon Gorick, Cedric Boston, Lucius Nero, Dennis Horatio, who were traffic education officer. We redesigned the system. And one of the things that I inherited when I went to traffic is this thing where they were saying, and that was part of the system, that if you claim that you can't read and write, they had something where they show you a couple of signs, and based on that, you pass that examination and you get your you get to go your practical against certificate of competence. Why argued against that? I say if a man in these modern times can't read and write, and to pass a simple exam, he should not be allowed to drive. I have no apologies. I had no apologies then, and I have no apologies now for that view, because a lot of the signs are written signs, right? When a man see the word yield, a man see the word dangerous bend, a man see no overtaking, he can't mambo, he is unmamboable. That's my word. I coined that word some years ago. He's unmamboable, meaning he can't read and write. What is he doing behind the wheel of a vehicle? Because I would argue that if he can't read and write, his reasoning, his powers of reasoning is diminished. That is my contention. And I say that if he can read and write, go and try to get some. And people said it in the comments. People said in the comments, well, in this modern times, the persons ought to be able to take something to pass a simple basic examination. But you talking about the carnage on the road, and you want to make an excuse for people who can't read and write to get a driver's license to sit down behind the wheel, behind a truck and all them type of thing. No. I would never agree to that. I would never subscribe to that view that something should be done for them to get a man who can mambo, a man who is man and a woman, who is unmamboable to get a driver's license. But you see, because of the slackness in the system, that is why that happens. And I fought against it. And let me tell you this, I ain't gonna call name, but at the time, there were some senior police officers who resist me strongly. When I made the presentation to the commission and the senior team, because some of them, oh God, they come down heavily. No, they weren't in agreement. But the presentation was such a detailed presentation that Larry Lewis and the majority of the people agree with me that we're going to do away with that. You got to write the examination and go through that process, right? So I don't know, because once the man talk about Blackbush and all them type of thing, then I can imagine that you're going to get political pressures now to devise some system to allow for people who can read and write to get a license. That is my suspicion. Because you know that it's operate. They're concerned about safety, really. It's a friend, family, and favorite. It's a friend's family, and favorite. So let me bring in CC and then I come back to that in a short while. But I want CC to go on this. CC, let me hear you, man, on this further.
It is shocking, that of all persons, the president of this cooperative republic of Guyana has a database. They said they triangulated where persons corruptly obtain driver's license. And the president has the database that they, and he's going to give them 6 weeks. When persons are dying on the road, when persons' lives and limbs are in constant peril on our road, and the president giving them another 6 weeks. You have the information there. You got to deal with it. And I always say, in decision making, you got to be swift, you got to be certain, and you got to be appropriate. The punishment has got to be appropriate. Swift, certain, and you have all the information there. The database, you get a database there. You say you triangulate and all kind of fancy word there. And then you give people 6 weeks. Pull them in. And you get the facilitators. We always saying that persons obtaining their driver's license without doing any examination, both theory and practical. And I've been harping all the time that they give Zara the theory to do. They are the sole persons who doing the theory. And there's no integrity testing on Zara. There's no anti-corruption exercise on Zara. What Zara sent to them is gospel. Zara, they are paragons of virtue. Here is it what happened on the road. And the president got debated database. And he's saying 6 weeks. Is that leadership? Is that decision making? And we have data. Remember Ron Singh in charge of audit to the Ghana Police Force did an audit, and he said 1,151 persons obtained their driver's license illegally. And he said they are potential killers. They're not potential killers, they don't graduate to killers. And if they want people, Kidnacimento did a research, and he said he's convinced that many persons who get a driver's license never drive a vehicle before. And we need to deal with this thing corruptly. Persons applying, persons getting the license and never do any theory. And let me tell you a personal story. I was Commando G Division. I live obliquely opposite traffic headquarters. My son and my daughter, they reached the age to get driver's license. Michael Harlequin was the traffic chief. My body friend, my partner. So they said, Daddy, let me give you a license. I said, well, you got to go and do the theory first and then the practical. But Daddy, Uncle Michael is your friend? I said, yeah, me and Uncle Michael are friends. But Uncle Michael and you are not friends. You will go and do the theory. They said, Daddy, there's a dunce exam. I said, Ali Maria, go and pass the dunce exam. And I bought the package. They wrote the test, and I think the one get 92 or one get 94 was a big row in the whole who get more marks and who. And then I got a driver, give him 3 weeks with them. So do the practical with them. He said, Skipper, they're all right. I said, give them another 3 weeks. He said, Skipper, they're all right when he did finish with them. So they had 6 weeks every day. And send them to Breakdown, go through the sticks, they got the license. And here what happened now. My friend Michael Harley Quinn called me the Skipper. See, I see them children driving vehicle in and out from your yard. They get driver license. I said, you the traffic chief, you should know that. And I hung up the phone. He called me back 2 days. He said, yeah, boy. They passed the theory and I signed the document and they passed the practical too. I said, good. The thing is that we must be very firm. I must make sure because we playing with people's lives on the road. I must make sure that persons who get a license know to drive and they go through the process. But coming back to the president, here it is. The president get a database. Here the thing, they triangulate the thing, as he said, and give people 6 weeks for come and bring in the license. It's not gonna happen. Pull them in and pull in the facilitators. Too many persons are dying on the road, and all because persons get license by corrupt means, and they are killers on our road. They are killers on the road. So I hope the president get a change of mind. I hope they get another function, so you could say, well, hey, I withdraw the previous statement I make. We're taking action now.
And exactly, let me say this. There are so many things that are wrong with the approach to this whole thing. So many things. Accident, we're in a crisis when it comes to the lawlessness on the road. Crisis. All categories of road users. And that is the approach by the president to this crisis. You are aware of all those who acquired a license unlawfully, right? I know what it is, euphemism, by bypassing the system. It's unlawfully they acquired a license, and you're going to give them 6 weeks amnesty, right? And then hear what the president reported have said. A comprehensive post-audit review conducted with the Commissioner of Police, the Guyana Revenue Authority, the Ministry of Public Works, the Ministry of Government Efficiency and Implementation, and the Ministry of Home Affairs, they uncovered this wide irregularities in the licensing system. They're going to cause this thing to be, who going to investigate it? We got to investigate. Hope you have put the police and GRA, because well, not the GRA so much, because police in particular, they're the ones who issue the certificate of competence. Police issue the certificate of competence, and therefore they are the ones who have to be held accountable. The traffic department of the police force. So let me see how that will go. Let's see how that will go. And then the president claimed that what he says here, you have all the names of the persons who got a practical paper. He called it a practical paper. It's a certificate of competence, Mr. President, no practical paper, right? So we have all the names of persons who got a practical paper but never passed the theoretical examination. We have a briefing, you have to understand. They are not practical paper, right? You get, when you do the theory, you get a certificate of theory and practical. You get a certificate of competence. In other words, the police are certifying that the person is competent to drive a motor vehicle of a particular category. So we are going to give those persons in the public domain. I think you said, we are going to give those persons in the public domain 6 weeks to surrender themselves and go back through the process. After that, we'll publish all the names in the newspaper, suspend the license, and prosecute them. What you wait to prosecute? He's saying after 6 weeks, then they're going to suspend the license and prosecute them. That is the only way we can remedy this. This prosecute all parties. And I love this part. Prosecute all the parties involved, and all the parties involved can only be the license owner who facilitated the process. Those who facilitated the process. But there's other things in this statement I need to go through. Then he said, I can only conclude that the publication of the names is intended to shame those persons. Why else would you publicize the names? You want name and shame, right? That is the intention, to name and shame. And then I said, hey, let me ask you this question. It's a general question. I would hope that the students will respond. What if those persons are like the PPP and they have no shame? You're going to publicize their names with the intention, I suspect, to name and shame. What if them like PPP, they're not going to shame? Remember, Lincoln Lewis, the trade unionist, made a statement profound. He says that the strength, or he said that the strength of the PPP is that the fact that they have no shame. So whereas the ordinary person said, well, you can't do that, you're going to look bad. No. So what if those persons are like members of the PPP and they have no shame? So how are you shaming them if they got no shame? Right? How are you going to shame them if they have no shame? And then they said they're going to publicize the name. You got to look at these things carefully, you know. That is why we just analyze these statements. They're going to publicize the name. Look to see if it happens, which paper they're putting it in. It's more money for the friends, family, and favorite, because certain preferred newspapers going to get the job to publicize this name. That's how I see it, you know. That is how I see it. More money in the pockets of friends, family, and favorite who own newspaper. That is how it's going to go. Then we talk about, then the next thing, you know, I don't know who is advising the president. Certainly, I don't think Ikin can advise him because he cannot know these things, right? I got to keep mentioning that. But the president says here that, right, after that, we'll publish all the names in the newspaper. Suspend the license. Unless you change the law, Mr. President, you cannot suspend license for something like that. You cannot. You cannot. What should happen? The people should be charged and put before the court. And if they're put before the court, then the magistrate might order them disqualified for the time being. Suspension, according to the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, is if you're charged with causing death by dangerous driving or wanton use of vehicle. That is the only 2 or 3 offenses you can suspend the license for. And we explained this before. But to hear the president coming back and talk about suspending license, unless you go to Parliament and change the law, because the law as it currently stands does not allow for a license to be suspended for something like that. Does not allow for license to be suspended. I believe if you're doing a criminal investigation, you get the license, you might lodge the license, you keep the license, but you have to go through a legal process to have the license nullified or something like that. Not by no presidential decree. You got to change the law, right? And then they suspend the license and prosecute them. So you're waiting to prosecute till at the end when you suspend. Now, I make a point here too, you know. I said you suspend, you got to change the law to allow for that. And then I made a point here. I asked you the question because remember, President had said at that function by the British High Commissioner, right, that the automatic system, ticketing system, detected 42,000, he was precise, 42 speeding tickets for over a period of time, 42 speeding. And he said only 10,000 of those tickets were paid. So 32,000 were outstanding. That is over a month ago. What happened then? What happened? They went ahead and they published the names of the vehicles and the owner. I guess the registered owner of the vehicle. They published that. What has happened? Give us an update. What has happened? How many of those 32,000 tickets were since paid? How many 32? Don't worry, they'll look piling up because more would have been issued, right? Let me talk about the 32 that you referenced when you talk about the made the announcement or you made that statement. What happened to the 32? How many of them have paid? How many? That is what people want to know. Because all this thing is just bluff. Because if you don't put a system in place and maybe even keep people updated, they're going to call you bluff. They're going to call you bluff because there are other people in the system. In case you know, let me tell you that these tickets can be negotiated. Right? Tickets can be negotiated. So I don't know, it's evidence that this government, the PPP government, the police force, especially the traffic department headed by Mahendra Singh, and get a clue how to deal with the carnage on the road. They don't have a clue. So the president makes some statement, nobody is going to analyze and say, well, look, sir, respectfully, we can't do it this way. This is what we recommend. Long now, you should have had the traffic heads of the departments and so on, operation man, sit down and craft some proper proposal to the government. Because many of the things require intervention by the government. They might require legislative change. You got to sit down, craft some good paper, and make the presentation to the minister or somebody there so that they can take these things into consideration. What were you doing? Nothing. They just come out with us other foolish statements, and then you look even worse because you make statement, you're going to do this, you're going to do that, and then nothing is done, and people just brush you aside. People just brush you aside, right? So tell us about that. Tell us, because this is exactly when you start with this carrying your ticket and carrying your license and so on. You'll end up with the same thing with 32,000 people and paying the ticket and nothing is happening. Let me bring in CC to have his say on this matter. CC?
The whole traffic ticket system is a big joke, and they didn't sit down and maybe talk about it and put systems in place that it can go to finality. Let me put things in proper context. They set up cameras. Cameras caught you speeding. The next step is that they got to find who was the driver. And to find who was the driver, you get the owner. And you serve the owner with a notice of identity. Tell me who is driving on that particular day and the particular time, the X vehicle. And if he can't tell you that, you got to take the rap. You summon him. He goes before the magistrate. Please guilty or not guilty, and the matter is dealt with. But what about the others now? That is the big issue, because according to Section 45 of the Motor Vehicle and Road Traffic Act, Chapter 5102, it talks about the restriction on prosecution under certain sections. And let me read it. Where a person is prosecuted for an offense under any of the provisions of this act, relating respectively to the maximum speed at which motor vehicles may be driven, to reckless or dangerous driving, and to careless driving, he shall not, I repeat, he shall not be convicted unless either A, he was served at the time of the offense was committed, that the question of prosecuting him for an offense under one or other of the provision of which I mentioned would be taken into consideration. I come back to that. B, within 14 days of the offense, a summons for the offense was served on him. Or C, within the said 14 days, a notice of intended prosecution specifying the nature of the alleged offense and the time and place where the alleged to have been committed was served on him or sent by a registered post to him or the owner of the vehicle at the time of the commission of the offense. and there's a proviso, provided that failure to comply with this requirement shall not be a bar to the conviction of the accused. In any case, where the court is satisfied that neither the name and address of the accused nor the name and address of the owner of the vehicle could be reasonably could with reasonable diligence have been ascertained in time for a summons to be served or for a notice to be served or sent on, or as aforesaid, that the accused by his own conduct contributed to the nature. And the requirement of this section shall in any case be deemed to have been complied with unless and until the contrary is proved. So what this act is saying is that reckless, careless, or dangerous driving or exceeding the speed limit, for you to have a successful case, one, you must warn the man at the scene that the question for prosecuting him for one or more offense of reckless, careless, danger, or exceeding will be considered. So you're warning at the scene that you got to serve the owner with a notice of intended prosecution, that within 14 days, either you summons the person or you charge them or you warn them at the scene or you serve them with a notice that you intend to take action against them. When and all is within 14 days. Now let's say you summons him within 14 days, the matter go before the magistrate will deal with the matter one way or the other. But you didn't serve the man with any notice. You didn't get him. How would you bring the matters before the court? That they got to get what we call ex parte trial, where somebody has got to go in the box and say they want you, they serve him with a summons, or they want him at the scene of the accident there. And the magistrate has got to do ex parte trial. They could try the matter, bring the person back if the person didn't know, properly summoned, properly warned, and then appear to court. You can now record an ex parte trial where the police has got to go and give evidence, and the cameras can't go and give evidence. So I know how they make out the cameras that take out the photographs there can't go and give evidence. Somebody has got to go and give evidence and talking about the cameras. I wonder when last they calibrated those cameras. I wonder if the guy at the National Bureau of Standards has ever had anything to do with those cameras. Are those cameras working 100% effectively all the time? Are there checks on them? The National Bureau of Standards, are they checking, are they calibrating them? So there's a whole big lot of things that you have to do if you want to get a conviction. And then again, which magistrate doing ex parte trial? Huh? A magistrate get 20-something ex parte cases for do. You think he can do it? In my days, I remember when on the East Coast, Master you said that sometimes said on a Wednesday afternoon. This Wednesday afternoon, we can do ex parte traffic matters. Who doing ex parte traffic matters? What happened with all them cases that banking up there? 20,000, 30,000, they're banking up there. Nobody ain't touching them. Nobody ain't bringing anybody before the court. They need to sit down properly and put proper systems in place, step by step, to show from the time the camera catch you to the time you go in front of the magistrate to the time you get convicted and these kind of thing. But that isn't being done. I heard somebody say the other day that if when the camera catch you and they're charging the the owner, them ain't charging no driver, them ain't looking for no driver. As long as it registered to Clinton Conway, Bob the gun with Clinton Conway, or register pass to the. So the whole system is not properly put together. And they need to sit down and put the system properly together. And they get a whole thousands upon thousands of backlog cases that have not started, that ain't come before a magistrate. So a lot of work needs to be done, and a lot of brain work needs to be done, or they got to amend the law. It's not just say bring a camera there, camera catch you, and there's the end of it. There are steps, and there are legal steps. They're talking about 14 days from the time of offense is committed. They're talking about serving a person with notice of intended prosecution, summons you within 14 days, and those things. They talk a lot about 14 days, section 45. Let them read section 45. That in case they want to do nonsense, they got to amend section 45. So a whole lot of things need to be done.
Yeah, thank you for that. You explained in detail to them. But let me say this. It is evident, very evident, that they're hustling to bring in new technology, because they like to boast about technology. Nothing wrong with that. But you have to have the legal foundation to accommodate the technology, and that is what they have not done. They brought in something new, this automated traffic ticket system and all this other thing. But they don't look at all the laws to make sure that some of the things that we discuss here, right? They then put the legal framework in place, and there's nonetheless work. The Attorney General, Anil Nandlal, SC, MP, right? That they should have sat down to say, all right, nothing wrong, as we said, in putting in this automatic camera thing to detect speeding. Nothing wrong with that. But you have to have the legal framework, because the law as it currently is still talk about a notice of identity to be served on the owner, the registered owner vehicle. But they're trying to bypass that without adjusting the regulation. If you want the owner of the vehicle, the registered owner, to be culpable, then you have to change the law to accommodate that. But the law as it currently stands tells you that if an offense is committed with a vehicle and the driver is not known, then you have to serve a notice of identity on the registered owner of the vehicle, commanding him to tell you who was driving the vehicle at a particular time and a particular place, right? And once you do that, if he fails to provide the information, then and only then the owner is culpable. Then and only then. But you all hustle and you're bringing things and talking and hoodwinking people. And that is why when these matters go to court, the unfortunate thing is that when these matters go to court, many people, matter of fact, they don't even go to court. It just pay your fine, $7,500 or whatever it is. They're talking about tint now for me $75,000. Well, that can get challenged, right? I'm sure. But the problem is people don't challenge it. People go on the pay, because it can be time consuming. But when you have people who are going to challenge it, these matters break down, because you have not adjusted the law to cater for this new technology. Oh, talking about that, I read it too today. Is it today or yesterday? Yesterday I read it, right? They said now again they're going with this technology without making sure that they have the framework in place. Hey, what they saying? This is camera crackdown. Vehicle owners now liable for every traffic violation caught on video. Let me read what the thing says. That's Lulan. A new nationwide camera-based traffic enforcement system will now automatically summon vehicle owners for violations such as undertaking, dramatically tightening road law compliance across Guyana. The initiative, announced by the Guyana Police Force, aims to curb reckless driving and hold owners directly accountable, even when someone else is behind the wheel. Assistant Superintendent of Police Stephen Gobin explained that the upgraded camera system captures every traffic infraction and issues summonses directly to the registered vehicle owner. Let me stick a pin. Who else they can issue the summon to? Who else? That's the only person you can issue the summon to? So I know that go at ASP Gobian. So the traffic chief last if I see him coming forward no more. Because this is sheer stupidness. You can only issue a ticket or this in this system to the registered owner of the vehicle. So you're saying that the camera captures every traffic infraction and issues summonses directly to the registered owner of the vehicle. Owners must ensure, hear what they're saying here now, owners must ensure that anyone operating their vehicle, whether a family member, employee, or friend, drive responsibly, or they will face legal consequences. Gobin urged businesses to protect themselves by including strict driving conduct clauses in their contracts. This is to ensure that renters or assigned drivers, not the companies, bear responsibility for tickets or court matters generated by the new automated system. With the system now live, the police is warning that every infraction will be recorded. The message is clear. Owners must take responsibility, educate their drivers, and prepare for a new era of strict technology-driven enforcement on Guyana's roads. A lot of talk here again. A lot of talk. The law speaks to the registered owner of the vehicle. Notice of identity. You telling me that you now you're going to hold the registered owner accountable automatically? Have you changed the law to accommodate that? You know who is a registered owner? Registered owner, some people who migrate, left the vehicle with somebody, give it to somebody, then change the registration. The registered owner might be some elderly person who really can't drive no more, pass it on to some son or something. So you tell me some 90-something-year-old man who can't drive, who maybe has lost his sight and all and everything. So he's going to be held accountable. It's a sheer craziness and not thinking this thing through. There are going to be thousands of cases in Guyana where the registered owner maybe is deceased. The man dead or the woman dead and gone and left the vehicle with somebody. So how are you going to get those persons? They're not thinking this thing through, you know. If they sat down, because I believe collectively they might have the brain power to come up with something that makes sense. A lot of the vehicles, I am sure, thousands of vehicles that are driving on the road, the registered owner has passed away. Registered owner dead and gone. So you're going to send the notice to the dead man. Dead people has vote, so you're going to now send to the dead people. In many cases, you have maybe thousands of people to registered owner who migrate and just left the vehicle with some family member and so on. So how you getting this registered owner? The thing is more complicated than that, because even in a case like that, you can't serve no notice of identity. The person dead. The person migrated. So how you getting that? Those are the things you have got to sit down and think about. And hear what I said. They're talking about the third lane. You know, and let me say this. I think, let me see, I got something. All right, let me read this short one too before I say something. The Ghana Police Force, in partnership with the National Danger Management Authority, NDMA, has introduced a new enforcement capability under the Safe Road Intelligence System that automatically detects and flags illegal third lane driving, a dangerous practice that has long contributed to congestion and public frustration across the country's roadways. Using upgraded SRIS video analytics, the system now identifies vehicles that misuse inside lane to bypass traffic. The technology captures high definition video evidence, including vehicle speed, lane position, and license plate information, which will be used as evidence by the Ghana Police Force to pursue dangerous driving charges. For years, members of the public have raised concerns about motorists abusing turning lanes to create an illegal third lane, especially during the high traffic period. This behavior not only causes collision and near misses, but also significantly increases gridlock and for law-abiding users and so on. Let me say this. This third lane thing, what I talk about, you know, we talk about undertaking. Some people are undertaking. I travel frequently on the East Coast. I don't know if there's any place else where they have this undertaking, like on the East Coast. And I would say that, let me say between by Souvenir, between Souvenir all the way to maybe like Plaisance. I have observed that people driving, they got 2 lanes traveling west. That is in the mornings. In the afternoon, it's reverse. The vehicle going east. They're making their own lane, so they're undertaking at speed too. At speed. Many times you get to a bridge. I don't know that they don't run into them bridge rails and culvert. It is something that is very, very dangerous. But let me say this to these scientists, right? Let me say this. And this is the enforcement instinct in me coming out. Men undertaking at speed and so on, you are going to use your what do you call it? The road intelligence system to deal with that. That cannot have the proper impact. That cannot have the desired impact. The desired impact is to send a message to everyone. And I would believe if I were in their shoe, I would have ensured that you mount exercises, operations, especially at peak hour in the morning. And all those vehicles that are doing that, you're going to catch all one time. You pull them in, and you have people line up there, policemen, and issue them with traffic tickets. You pull them in, issue them with traffic tickets, because then you create the visual. Everybody else will see what is going on. And therefore, they know that that is something that is being dealt with. One of the things I recommended a long time to y'all, put up signs. Drive to the left or near side of the road. Right? Put up signs. I've seen that in other countries. Put it up. But when you are going to issue them a ticket electronically, it's only the driver is aware of what is going on, the driver of the particular vehicle. So they're going to continue. Maybe that driver wants to get the ticket once. I don't know how quickly the ticket it will reach him. But you get it once, he might try to do the right thing. But I am saying that if you really want to be tactical and to deal with this thing, arrange to have a full force. You can't go all over the country at the same time. Full force. Once they pull there, you pull them over. You get people writing tickets and giving them tickets. And if you're really organized, those tickets can be pre-written because it's the one offense you're dealing with. Right? If you can call them careless driving, or you call it whatever you want to call it, and you issue them with the tickets. Because there are dozens and dozens of drivers who are passing at the same time, will observe what is going on, and the message is going to be sent to them that, hey, I can't do this because these people coming out. They're going to know when you're going to be out. That is how you make an impact with these things. Now you come to tell me you're going to, a man drive third lane, and then maybe a week or so after, then you are going to, he get a ticket, and it's only he aware of this ticket. So what impact will that have? Again, I say these people are not thinking this thing through. And because I say they're going to want to implement it, can't tell the traffic chief, they're doing that already. I guess he can say so. And then they talk about, they put a nationwide camera-based traffic enforcement. I don't know that you have these cameras nationwide. I know you have them on the East Coast. You have them on the East Bank. Maybe you get them West Dem. But you get them on the quarantine, I don't know. You get them on the highway, I don't know. Executable course. So what nationwide you talking about? What nationwide you talking about? And it's about owners must ensure vehicles are, what, let's say, owners must ensure. Well, the owners, they mean registered owner, must ensure that anyone operating their vehicle, whether a family member, employee, or friend, drives responsibly or will face consequences. A lot of talk, and mean much. A lot of talk. We want to see action. And I am saying again that the correct action would have been to make sure that you mount operations during certain times at peak hours in the mornings and in the afternoon. Pull them over. You have legal you have the legal ability to do so. They would have been you have reasonable cost to do so. You'll see them committing a violation. You can legally pull them over and issue them with ticket for the violation. And imagine everybody else passing the scene now, Say, "Boy, no, you can't do this." That is the type of visual, this type of impact you have to have. While you're sitting in the office and you tell the automated system working, you got 42,000 tickets according to the president issued, and only 10,000 paid, less than 25%. How impactful that is going to be. How impactful that is going to be. Let me bring in CC to address this issue of this undertaking, this third lane thing we talk about. CC?
Paul, the bottom line is that they're introducing technology, but they're not looking at the law, or they're not introducing technology, the laws to go ahead with the technology. And there are a lot of sections that need to be amended. I talked several times about Section 45, reckless, careless, dangerous driving or exceeding the speed limit. That the laws has got to be amended. Technology, introducing technology alone can't work. You can put cameras all about the place there, but if people want to fight you in court, they're gonna win because you don't have the requisite law to deal with it, or you are breaching the current law. And I ask them to pay special attention to Section 45, dealing with a reckless, careless, dangerous driving or exceeding the speed limit, things that you got to do to have a conviction. I hope they sit down and put things, or I hope your friend, your nosy friend, I hope he will come forward and look at the relevant laws and make the necessary amendments. But then again, you make amendments. When you go make amendments, when you get in Parliament and all kind of thing. So it's a whole lot of issues coming into play.
Now, here the next thing from the very statement I read just now. Here what this young officer is reported to have said. He urges businesses to protect themselves by including strict driving conduct clauses in their contracts. This is to ensure that renters or assigned drivers, not the companies, bear responsibility for tickets or court matters generated by the new automatic system. Mr. Gobin, then tell me, how you gonna know who the renters are or who the drivers are? The drivers are. Yeah? How you gonna know? And that is what we're saying. The only way you can know is that we say a notice of identity has to be served on the registered owner. So if a man rents a vehicle, right? That is what I'm saying. They're just contradicting themselves because these things are not carefully thought out. He said, again, let me read it back. Gobin urges businesses to protect themselves by including strict driving conduct clauses in their contracts. This will ensure that renters or assigned drivers, not the companies, bear responsibility for tickets or court matters generated by the new system. So how are you going to know who the renters or who the employees were? The assigned drivers, as you say. How are you going to know? And that is, you got to go through the legal process. You have to serve the owner of the vehicle with a notice of identity for them to say who was driving the vehicle at the particular time and place. They might know place, but they would know who they gave the vehicle to. And they then have the responsibility to say who it was. And then and only then that person can be dealt with. And if the owner or the registered owner refuses to give the information, then the law says he is held responsible. But they're just thinking these things. But the young officer they put, I'm surprised that they allow a young officer to come and to say that. But that is what we have. I thought the traffic chief himself, he like run to the mic and cuss up people and all him, but he liked that. So I know why he didn't come out this one. I don't know why he didn't come out this time around. And this is what the president had said with the same driving thing. Look, the statement is here. He's quoted here. And you see the big presidential coat of arms and so on. So it's an official statement. We have triangulated the entire licensing process. And where discrepancies exist, action will be taken. Those who obtain license without meeting the requirements have 6 weeks to surrender them. After that, we will publish the names, suspend the license, and prosecute all involved. It's HE, this is His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, at the Guyana Police Force traditional Christmas breakfast. That is what he said. But as I say, nonsenseness. You can't tell me that this matter is so serious. And it is serious. People dying on the road like flies. And you know that these people have acquired a license illegally. And you want to give them 6 weeks. So during the 6 weeks, they'll continue driving and so on. Yeah, let me ask these final questions before I move to another issue. Mr. President, you don't want to know who the facilitators are? Not only the person to turn themselves in, do you not want to know who are the persons facilitating and how they go about facilitating this illegal protest? This process, illegal protest? You don't want to know that? Right? Now, let me move on, man. Let me move on. You know, on the last 2 episodes, I've been giving you all this NIS thing with the bridge, the Bobby's Bridge. I have played episodes 1, 2, and 3. Right? 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to play you now episode 4, and hopefully we might be able to get in episode 5. But I'm going to play you episode 4 now. Sit back and listen to what's going on with your pension money at the NIS pension. Here we go. No, hold on. This is the wrong thing I'm pulling up. This is it here.
Application to block Patterson's toll order. She ruled that his actions didn't amount to an illegal takeover. But the company appealed. The case went all the way to the Caribbean Court of Justice. And while the government maintained control and blocked that specific toll increase, the underlying problem never got solved. The concession agreement is still valid. The company is still owed money under that agreement. The guaranteed returns are still in the contract, and the concession doesn't end until 2029. So even though the government won this battle, they didn't win the war. They're stuck with a terrible contract that will keep costing taxpayers billions until they can either renegotiate it, buy it out, or wait for it to expire. Cabinet made the decision, not the NIS board. The 2016 forensic audit by HLB, R. Ciberon and Co. dropped a bombshell. Cabinet ordered the investment, not the NIS board. According to the audit, the minutes of the 445th Board of Directors meeting state that Chairman Dr. Roger Luncheon, who was also head of the Presidential Secretariat and Secretary to the Cabinet, informed directors that approval was given by Cabinet for National Industrial and Commercial Investments Limited, Nickel, to sell 950,000 preference shares held in BBCI to NIS at par value. The board simply countenanced Cabinet's decision without proper due diligence to determine if the investment was in NIS's best interest. Even Jagdeo admitted in May 2016, "So, we dealt with NIS many times, but never about where NIS should invest their money. The only time that came up was when they made some investment in the bridge." The forensic audit concluded the board accepted decisions made by Cabinet and invested in a company, BBCI, which is making losses and which has many issues surrounding its going concern without proper analysis. What NIS lost or gained depends who you believe. What was lost as far as can be verified. 2013 report, NIS lost $1.8 billion on the Berbice Bridge investment. 2016 forensic audit findings. BBCI had accumulated losses of $1.507 billion by 2014. Common shares were impaired to a negative net worth of negative $2.77 per share. By 2016, NIS had received 0 dividends on its $80 million common share investment. Preference share dividends for 2014 and 2015 were outstanding and unpaid. BBCI wrote to NIS requesting to reduce interest rates on all debt instruments from 9 to 11% down to 7.5% to avoid insolvency. All told, NIS lost $1.8 billion on the bridge according to government audits. It lost $5.8 billion in CLECO. That's over $7.6 billion in pension money gone. NIS General Manager as of December 2016, Holly Shane Greaves confirmed NIS was yet to receive 1 cent from investment in Berbice Bridge in dividends, though debt service was being paid. 2018 statement. By February 2018, NIS Finance Controller Jacqueline Scotland stated, "We have not received any dividends for our ordinary shares, but the bridge did not declare any dividends on those shares in any year. Also, dividends on the preference shares are outstanding for 2014 and 2015. The audit warned, in the event that BBCI becomes insolvent because of its current loss-making position, its issues with the government regarding the lowering of the bridge toll, its inability to generate adequate cash flows to meet its obligations, and the fact that the company doesn't even own a bridge but just a 21-year license to operate it, the investors' investments will be at severe risk of not being recovered." What was gained, according to Jagdeo. In April 2022, Vice President Bharat Jagdeo claimed NIS had received $3.3 billion from the $2.59 billion investment. His breakdown. Bond 1, $300 million principal at 9%. Full $300 million repaid. $276 million in interest received. Bond 2, $760 million principal at 10%. $995 million in interest received. Principal not mentioned as repaid could not be verified. Subordinated debt $500 million at 11%. $65 million redeemed. $517 million in interest received. Preference shares $950 million. $268 million received. Later reports say over $200 million. Total reclaimed returns $3.3 billion or $2 billion in interest plus $1.3 billion principal repayments. Let's reconcile these two narratives. Both accounts can be simultaneously true because they're measuring different things. NIS made money on debt instruments, bonds, and subordinated loans because those pay fixed interest regardless of company performance. This is where Jagdeo's $3.3 billion figure comes from. NIS lost money on equity, common and preference shares because BBCI operated at massive losses. The 80 million common shares became worthless. Preference shareholders received some payments but far below expectations. The real loss is opportunity cost. That $2.59 billion could have been invested in government treasury bills or other safer instruments. Instead, it went to a bridge company that racked up $1.5 billion in accumulated losses, couldn't pay maintenance costs from toll revenue, needed government intervention to avoid 266% toll increases, doesn't even own the bridge but just a 21-year license to operate it. Timeline matters. The 2016-2018 reports said NIS was getting nothing. Jagdeo's 2022 claims suggest substantial payments happened between 2018 and 2022. No one has produced documentation showing when exactly these payments occurred. The Berbice Bridge wasn't just a bad deal. It wasn't just poor planning or unfortunate circumstances. It was a carefully structured scheme to transfer wealth from ordinary Guyanese through their tolls and their pensions to a small circle of politically connected investors led by the president's best friend. Every dollar subsidizing that bridge today, over $1 billion in 2025 alone, that's the cost of this heist still being paid. Every toll Berbice pay, the highest in the Western Hemisphere, that's the cost of this heist. Every pension payment NIS struggles to make because billions are tied up in bad investments, that's the cost of this heist. And the worst part? The people who designed this scam are still in power. Some of them are still in government today. And nobody has faced any consequences. This is what corruption looks like in Guyana. Not guns and masks, signatures and contracts and government approvals. But it's still robbery. And it's still happening right now, today, as you watch this video. The question is, what are you going to do about it?
Sorry, I was muted there for that thing to play. You saw it there. You ordered it there for yourself. That is why people can't get the pension. No increase since 2019, according to former Finance Minister Winston Jordan in his program yesterday. No increase in NIS pension since 2019. Because of this bad arrangement, and as the people say, it's not just ordinary mistake. This is how this thing was designed and planned. Well transferred to friends, family, and favorite. And the question is asked, what are we going to do about it? We're going to sit back and we're going to moan and swan, right? That's part 4. There's another part to this same episode. I invite you all to come back on Monday, and time permit, I'm going to play it on Monday. I'm going to play that part on Monday. Before I bring in, CC, in case he wants to say anything about that, let me bring him in. CC?
No, it is clear. It's clear. Total corruption. Friends, family, crony, phonies, and everybody. They're designing that way. That since 2019, that we can't get any increase in our old age, in our NIS pension. It's there. It's massive. And no what could be done with it.
Yeah, massive. You see, I said repeatedly, you have to remind people of these things, And only remind, many people will not know of all these details. And they sit there and they tell you, people, they point their finger, and they know all who is criminal, they know all who is thief. You ordered there for yourself. You ordered there for yourself. Now, let me say this as we try to wind down this afternoon, right? The new parliament, the 13th parliament, was sworn in on the 3rd of November this year, 2025. We learned that we were told that the next phase of the operation is that the speaker to summon a meeting of the members of the opposition for them to elect a leader of the opposition. That person is expected to be the leader of the We Invest in Nationhood Party, Ashuddin Mohammed. Speaker, the last we heard, the Attorney General, Anil Nandlal, SC, MP, said that the speaker was out of the country. And when he returns, he was suggesting that when he returns, that process might commence. What he ain't coming back? He ain't coming back. Like he gone with the wind, he ain't coming back. And these are the people talking about democracy. And they're making all sorts of excuse. Nandalal said the other day that to elect someone who is facing, he referred to as a fugitive offender or something like that. Imagine the Attorney General referring to a man who goes to court every day and whose movement is known, because as President Branch monitoring, he telling me all the time, they referring to you as a fugitive. Imagine that, the Attorney General of Guyana. Right? But it is clear, as we have been saying all along, that they're doing everything they can to make sure that Ashuddin Mohammed is not elected as the leader of the opposition. They started by saying that, look, they get this, according to Nandalal, that they get this extradition request on the 30th of October, the 30th of October. They get it. They make sure, or they're going to say it's not them, so let me give them a little credit for that. The system caused the magistrate from Diamond East Bank to come to Georgetown to inquire into this case. I have been finding out, and I got information. She can't just pick herself up and come. She had to be clothed with the legal authority to come to Code 7 to inquire into this matter. So she came there. Carlton and they got this extradition request on the 30th. The arrest Ashuddin on the 31st of October. The last day in October. That was a Friday, right? You can't do nothing Saturday, you can't do nothing Sunday. The Monday, the 3rd, was the convening of the 13th Parliament. It is clear, because they themselves said so, even though they didn't say so directly, that when he was arrested on the 31st, Friday the 31st of October, the intention was for him to be remanded. The intention was for him to be remanded. However, he was taken to court and he was granted bail. The ball, Jack the ball, the other liars associated with the ball, Nandalal and all them come out to say that he should not have been granted bail, which tells us clearly that the intention was to have him in prison on remand when the parliament convened. The thing backfired. So he was granted bail, he went to parliament, and he was sworn in as a member of parliament. I remember the intention was to not to have him sworn in. And according to the constitution, before he can be elected as a leader of the opposition, you have to be sworn in as a member of parliament. So they had intended that he would not have been sworn in, and therefore if you're not sworn in, he could not have been. Because let me tell you this, had they succeeded in preventing Mohammed from going to parliament on the on the 3rd of November, had they succeeded in that, right? The speaker would have summoned that meeting the same day to elect a leader of the opposition. Let me repeat that. That is my belief from all the evidence we've seen, circumstantial evidence, that if they had succeeded in preventing Azzuddin Mohammed from going to parliament on the 3rd of November, if they had succeeded in that, same day, the speaker would have called immediately after the swearing-in, they would have called the members of the opposition to elect the leader of the opposition. But I think backfire big time. So now it's delay and delay. But I want to see what's going to happen. Because the Minister of Home Affairs spoke about this thing, and she's saying that the grace period is up to the end of this month, by which time they can put legislation in place. Well, what legislation? You're going to Parliament. Parliament is not being called. So me, I know where you are going with that. Parliament is not being called. As we all know, that the matter was heard was on Wednesday, the 10th. That is the extradition case. The magistrate indicated that the matter now, she's going to proceed with airing the extradition part on the 6th of January. Right? That's what she said. The defense counsels have indicated that they are going to appeal the decision that she handed down, right? Because they wanted the constitutionality of the amendment to the 2009 extradition law, fugitive offences act, to go to be clarified by the High Court, but she said, nah, she's going to deal with it. So we in for some, as we used to say earlier, we are in uncharted waters. And the GPS, the global positioning system, is not working. It now works. So there's nowhere to go. They say if you don't know where to go, any road will lead you there. If you know where you're going, any road will get you there. And that's what's happening now. That's what. We are heading towards a crisis because they don't want Mohammed to be sworn in. Clear from all the statements that have been made, including a statement by the Attorney General that will be a stain on the Parliament to have someone who is indicted and facing extradition proceedings to be the leader of the opposition. That is what he said. So they're going to do all kind of things. And Nadir, Nadir disappeared, man. That your speaker gone. So the question is asked, and people have asked this, well, if the speaker is not there, and if this matter is so important, what happened to the deputy speaker? If this matter is so important, that is the case of electing, because we said swearing in, I know swearing in is the electing of the leader of the opposition. If that is so important, the speaker for some reason is not available. What happened? The whole thing grind to an halt? That is what you're suggesting? That it grinds to an halt? No, man, look, let me see where you can go to. Watch the ride. They in the balcony. I get a preferred seat, and I'm watching to see how this thing unfolds. I'm watching to see how this thing. This whole thing, buddy, when you read it, when you see this thing, and the calculator turn up the self, can't handle that, sir, is the Americans retain these Jamaican liars. The U.S. Embassy in Guyana came out with an emphatic statement to say the U.S. had nothing to do with the hiring of these lawyers, nothing at all. And nonetheless, them people don't get shamed, as I told you all already. So when they talk about publishing the names, a lot of these people who violate these speed and all this other thing, they're like the PVP, they ain't got no shame. Now they don't get no shame. And then they get some people, I don't know, I told you all to listen to the Caribbean Tea program. And let me say, I was so disappointed with Dennis Shabala calling the name, because when the Vivian Williams asked you about this same thing about the Americans saying that they had nothing to do with it, they must say, yeah, no, but the thing is all over the place. All over. But that is how they lose their integrity. That is how they lose their integrity. You know about that? But that's every time they open their mouth, they're putting their foot in their mouth, they open their mouth, they're looking bad. They're looking bad. I know they ain't ashamed, they're looking bad. Because in many, let me say this before I bring in CC for his closing, and we can move on. Let me say this. In many jurisdictions, them statements there that are proven to be false, made by such senior people like the Attorney General in particular, people would have been calling on them to resign. You would have had big movement for them to resign. You can't come to the public and tell them blatant lies and continue to sit there, but they ain't got no shame. That is the issue. They have no shame. And people allow them to get away with that. Call them out. I will continue to call them out. I have no fear of them. I will continue to call them out with all of these things. I will continue, as I've said, to analyze these statements that they make. Analyze the statements. Let me bring in CC to comment on that and to give his closing, and then we're going to send you off into the weekend. CC?
Paul, you were very clear in terms of the issue involving the Mohammed and other relevant issues. I don't want to go far into it, but it will continue. But just as how I understand the massive gold smuggling at Murudi Mountain at Shelton is continuing unabated, that the Brazilians are dominating, and there are tons of golds they're producing, but they're not declaring, they're under declaring. And those that they under declare is being sent across the Takatu River to Brazil. And the little that they declare, they're not selling anything to the gold board or authorized dealers. The geology mines people afraid to go in there, afraid to take a sort of action because of the minister. But the smuggling going on, and it's big time. And as I said on a couple of episodes before, that before long we can get Morudi, but we don't get Morudi Mountain. It's massive destruction. I wonder why the EP hasn't gone in there yet. Or they're afraid of the minister. And then last but not least, persons are asking when the police going to release that guy that they're holding, where they call it the safe house, under protected security, they call it witness protection, in a house at Ivleri. They cajole him, they coach him, they do all sort of things for him to give evidence in a matter that he didn't know about. Understand the matter will be thrown over to the High Court very shortly. But the fact is that they're keeping him there against his will under horrible condition, and understand the chief sinners are members of the major crime unit. It's like kidnapping the man. You get the man there. You get the evidence. You're still keeping him there against his will under atrocious condition. I wonder when they're going to release him. And I repeat myself, I wonder when some action will be taken at Morudi Mountain. The Brazilians run things there. You Guyanese, and you go to a certain part in Morudi Mountains, you gotta get permission from the Brazilians. The Brazilian can tell you where you can go and where you can't go, and this is in Guyana. I'll talk about it more. Maybe I show some photographs subsequently.
Yeah, thank you, my brother. Thank you very much. Thank you. And I got to remind you all about this, Remember this?
I am told that during the course of next week, we will get some more extradition requests. Perhaps Mohammed will feel a little better when that is made public. And we will make that public once we receive them, the same way that we have made the Mohammed extradition request public.
That statement was over, 6 weeks now, next week, about 6 weeks. That's the meeting that is to be called by the speaker. That's gonna happen. The 12th of never. Yeah, you heard the 12th day of Christmas. This is the 12th of never. 12th of never, that is what we have for a government. Those are the people we have in power, right? 5 more years upon them. Those are the people we have in power. Folks, as we take our leave of you this afternoon, in the weekend, enjoy your weekend. As I said, this and the next weekend are the 2 last weekends before Christmas. Make sure you get your stuff together. Spend what you get, Don't plan on nothing that you know. You get the shaft, take your shaft. Take your shaft, because you're looking out for Christmas bonus. And I started to think you done buy blind and you get money. Who done decide they're going to buy fridge? And a lot of the women decided to buy frock. You remember the word? Not dress. Back in the day, they buying their frock for go to church and so on. Well, you got to think again. You have got to think again. Because it looked like, despite the fact that Jack Dio said they're going to fulfill their promises, they're going to say, they didn't say when. They didn't say when. They remind me of Cyril Langevin, officer of the TSU. Used to come out, used to say, but used to ask the boys, Banwari say to? And they would say, bear your chafe. But he said he didn't say for how long. So Banwari said, bear your chafe. He didn't say for how long. So bear your chafe, man, bear your chafe. God will provide. God will provide. Those of you who believe, the good Lord will provide. Right? The good Lord will provide. So, folks, we had a good afternoon. Again, your attendance was outstanding for Friday afternoon, and we appreciate that very much. And as you see the numbers there, those of you who are in a position, we know you ain't cash grant and all that thing. Things tight. We know things tight. But you might still find it a little change somewhere to contribute to the program. If you can, we would appreciate that. And again, I want to extend gratitude to all those who have been contributing to the upkeep of this program. So until then, until we meet again, we are due to meet on Monday. Monday, God spare life. Everything is up to the Almighty. Everything is up to the Almighty. Because we might plan, and the good Lord decide, no, it is not going to work, then it's not going to work. Right? So, God spare life. We're going to meet again on Monday. Monday morning at 11 o'clock for another episode of Speaking Out, Exposing Corruption, Incompetence. Until then, stay well. Bye.